Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome to a Christmas in July video that features a gift idea. Now this is a gift that was given to me by a subscriber named Cass when she came to visit us at our store, and I love it. It is a mason jar that she has spray painted a solid color and then added a vinyl that says a chew, a vinyl or a sticker. You can think of it as a sticker. And the top she has made so that Kleenex will come out of it. Now these are all over Pinterest, so you can get lots of idea and inspiration from there. But a couple things I want to tell you. I'm going to be cutting my lettering out using my Cricut Maker today, but I have to encourage you about this. You don't have to have a fancy machine to make this happen, because let's say you wanted to make this for a friend and you wanted to put their monogram on it. You can get pre-cut stickers from Walmart or craft stores or wherever you buy your craft supplies. So you could put like a monogram on here without having a fancy machine. There's also different stickers you could add to it just to dress it up, depending on who you're giving it to. Maybe it's for a superhero fan. You might could just use a superhero sticker and dress it up. Whatever you think for whoever you're giving the gift to. But like I said, today we're going to make some lettering on our Cricut. I'm going to show you how to do that, how to download a font, everything. Now, one thing different about Cass's jar versus mine. So Cass spray painted her jar, and as you can see, I'm going to paint mine by hand. I have paint on me. But it's beautiful. If you like this smooth finish, you'll want to consider spray painting. But I'm not going to be spray painting today. I kind of like the brush stroke look because I'm doing mine kind of country. And so you'll see how that looks as we get to it. So first thing you need to do is get yourself a jar. This jar, and I can tell that she did the same thing I did. Let me show you the jar I'm using. So this is a jar that is called a smooth jar, and I found this at Walmart. These are the same ones, what she used and what I use. This one says, this one has nothing on it actually. I thought it had the ball logo, but it doesn't. Hers actually does have the ball logo, which I think is really pretty. I like that on there, but this one doesn't even have that. I can't feel it or see it. So this is just a smooth jar. Now you do want to make sure that your lid comes apart in two pieces. This matters unless you have a way of cutting some sort of hole in here to work. But this is the only thing you're really going to be using with some other pieces to make the little tissue spot. You won't be using this as far as the finished project goes. So you want to pick yourself up some jars. And again, I found this one in the craft section, not in the food section, but they might carry them in the food section as well. Just look for smooth jar. All right, let's get to painting. So the paints I'm going to use are my old favorites. These are the ones I pick up at Walmart. I'm going to use the color Plaster, and I'm going to varnish it with this matte sealer that they have. This is the jar, and all I have done is cleaned it. Now, me rubbing it with my hands is a bad idea, but here's what you want to do. You want to clean this with a glass cleaner that will leave it with that squeaky finish, okay? So if you want to use an alcohol and let it dry, or if you want to use something like, you know, a window cleaner, who knows? Whatever you got that leaves them really clean. Even some vinegar and water would work. Just get it squeaky, okay? Then I'm going to take my paint, and let me tell you, I love to paint a jar, and here's why. They're easy. So I'm loading my brush up with paint, and I'm just going to go right underneath the lip where the, this is where the lid goes, and I'm just going to run that around like that and then pull down. Now you do want to try to keep your brush strokes going in the same direction. That's one thing that is important that I find anyway. So I'm just going to run underneath the bottom of that little lip and put a coat of paint on. I'm going to put one coat on first, one full coat, and then we're going to have to let it dry in between every coat. That's a trick I have discovered. The more dry time you give it in between your coats, the better. And when we do the second coat, I'll show you some other tricks that I've learned. Now, when you're painting, as you're working your way around the jar, some of the jar is going to dry as you're painting, all right? Don't be tempted to take your wet brush and run back over it into those spots. It will pull the paint off. You need to just let this coat dry completely, and then we'll come back with our second coat to fill in any places we missed. So I'm going to sit this aside and let it dry, and we'll come back and do that second coat in just a second. Now I'm on to my second coat. Now remember, I told you this needs to dry thoroughly before you start your second coat. And when you do, on your second coat, you want to make sure that your brush is fairly full of paint. Here's why. If you start to do this and sort of dry brush your paint on, it will pick up the coat underneath. So you're going to lay this down a little heavy. Now here's the thing. I like the look of the brush strokes. If you don't like the brush strokes, you'll want to consider spray painting your jars, okay? But I think the brush strokes gives it that kind of homemade country look, and that's what I'm going for. Okay, I've got my second coat on. Don't be tempted to come back over what you've already laid down and brush. Let me show you why. Right here will probably do it. I'm going to brush. And it didn't do it too bad, but it picked up a little bit right there because I brushed over it when I really shouldn't have. So be mindful not to brush back over. Just get good even coats and let that sit and dry. Okay, so let this dry thoroughly. And if you want a third coat, you can do it. I don't think I'm going to do a third coat. I want it to look a little country, a little rustic, so I'm going to leave it as it is. So now we need to make the little part that comes out the top. And what Cass did was she used a glitter felt and she doubled it up so it's in there and it's kind of soft and movable. I'm going to do mine a little bit different in that, number one, I'm going to use some fun foam to start with. This is just that foam that you can pick up from anywhere. We have it. We used to have it in the store. I don't know if we still do, but you're going to use a little bit of the fun foam. And then I'm actually going to take the jar itself right here and trace my circle. So let's do that really quick. I'm going to trace it with a marker so you guys can see what I'm doing, but at home I probably wouldn't use a marker. I would just use a pencil. So I'm going to trace this all the way around, and then we can cut this little guy out. So I'm going to cut it just to the inside of my trace line, and the reason is the trace line is a little larger than my jar lid because I traced the outside. So this will make it fit just inside my lid. Now, as you know, I'm going to be using my Cricut anyway. I could totally cut this on the Cricut. You could totally cut this on your scan and cut or whatever electronic cutting machine you have. So if you're going to make a bunch of these, you might consider that. Just be sure you measure your jar lid perfectly so you get a good circle. And you might even want to do one by hand like this and then measure. Go ahead and get it all, placed and set. Make sure it fits in really good. See how perfectly that one fits in. So then measure this to make your circle in your electronic cutting machine. So 2 3/4 would be the size of my circle. That way I would know for sure. Okay, so this guy's going to go inside there. But I want to do one other thing real quick. Now this part you can do by hand or use your Cricut machine or your cutting machine for, but I'm going to cut a little support piece. So this is the inner circle of my jar lid, correct? So what I'm going to do here, this is a piece of Not Your Mama's cardstock. This is a 130-pound cover stock, so it's really thick. You could use a cereal box lid or whatever you got at home. I wouldn't get too thick with the product, just something that'll add a little stability to our little foam piece. So I'm going to trace that circle on the inside there, and then while I've got it there, I'm going to go ahead and trace the circle on the outside as well. And you won't want to use a Sharpie because this is my jar lid. I can clean this off with a wipe, but you won't want to use a Sharpie for this. You'll want to use a pencil to trace. Okay, so now what we're going to do is cut this out. So I'm going to start by cutting just inside that circle. Again, if you have a cutting machine, do one of these by hand to make sure it fits, and then build it in your cutting machine so your machine can do it for you, because it can easily cut this size cardstock or this thickness. All right, let's see if this fits inside our jar. It's close, but not quite, so I'm going to trim it just a tiny bit more. Let's test that, working our way down. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so now I know the size of my circle, okay, and now I'm going to cut this intersection out. I'm just going to do that by poking my snips through it to get me started, and then just cut to one line, just like so. And then just head in there and cut around. Now this part doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just using this as a stabilizer for my foam so that it doesn't pull out as the Kleenex pulls out. So there is our little circle. Again, make this on your Cricut also, but do one by hand to make sure your measurement is right first. So now that I have it created, this one is a little over 2 5/8 around on the outside, and the inside is just about 2 inches. So you could totally do this on your Cricut also. So this I'm going to glue here for stability. I think this will really help when you're pulling the Kleenex out. And the only other thing we need to do is make our little X mark here. So I'm just going to take my pen blade and just cut an X. I'm not going to measure or anything. I'm just going to cut an X here in the middle. And this will be where my Kleenex pulls out of the jar. Let's make sure we're through. We are. Now let's do another one. See if we're through there. We are. I think that might need to be a little bit longer. This is a spot you'll kind of play with your Kleenex, because you'll want to make sure that it's loose enough for the Kleenex to come through, but not so loose that it won't pull one Kleenex instead of all of them out at one time. All right, so that is my little Kleenex release spot. Now I'm going to glue this around the foam. So I'm going to take a little bit of my art glitter glue here and run it around the edge, and then glue this little circle on. just like so. Again, just for stability, you won't see this. It'll be hidden. So now this little guy fits right inside of here, and it's nice and sturdy for our Kleenex to come through. So you see that I have the cardstock on this side so you don't see it through the front. It's nice and smooth, okay? All right, when our jar is dry, we can put this in and test it out. But in the meantime, I want to talk to you about the Kleenex you're going to use. Now, this is what Cass gave me while she was here. She's like, you might want to make one of these, or you might want to refill your jar, and this is what you'll need. These are Kleenex Perfect Fit tissues, and they come in this little cylinder, right? So if you take this lid off of here, like so, you can pull these guys out. This is where you get it started, okay? And you can pull these guys out. Now, I will tell you that she told me, and I did a little research, but you can go online and find how to fold Kleenex like this. So if you can't find these tubes like this, just do a quick Google search of how to fold Kleenex for jars. You'll find that. It's online. But I would suggest if you can find these, get these, okay? If I can find these on Amazon, I'll link them because I know some of you guys that aren't in the US can't always find these things. So we'll try to link that for you. But this is what we'll be using in the jar when we go to assemble it. Okay, so to design our jar, the first thing you need to do is you need to measure the space you have available. Now, my jar is a smooth jar, so I can use the whole space, but I don't like to wrap words around on a shape because I don't have a lot of luck with that. I'm not very good with that whole wrapping around. So I'm going to make my canvas a little smaller, make my area a little smaller so I can stick this down really easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to shapes, and I'm just going to pick just a square. Grab this guy out of here. Now, I measured my jar, and I think the best space for me is 2 3/4 by 4. So I'm going to type 2.75 up here in the width, and then I'm going to unlock this lock, and on the other side, I'm going to type in 4, and then hit enter, and it'll change it. So these are the constraints I want to fix for myself. Constraints, I think with a T. This is what I want to fix for myself. But I've told you before, I do not work well with this black in here. So I'm going to change this to white. And just for you guys to be able to see, I'm going to change my canvas color now just by clicking on blank canvas down here and change it to green so you guys can see really good. All right, so this is where my wording needs to stay. Now, I want to do the tall, skinny letters that are very popular right now. So let me show you where to find those or where to get a font like that. I found one in Cricut that was pretty good, but it's not exactly what I want. So I'm going to go to a website called 1001 Fonts. I'll put that in the description for you guys, but it's 1001 Fonts. And here's what I love about this particular website. Right here, okay? This little tag where my cursor is that has the little dollar sign, it's very important that when you're getting a font and you're using it for something, you're using it correctly. If I'm using this for personal use, I'm not going to sell this, then I don't have to worry about it if it says free for personal use, like if I'm using it in my home or what have you. But for me, even if I'm going to give something away, I like to make sure the fonts I use are free for commercial use or I pay for them, whichever one I want to do. Today, I want to look for free for commercial use ones. So by clicking this, it will only show me fonts that are free for commercial use. And I can know that because I can head over here and hover over this tag. And look, it says this font is free for commercial use. This means even if I decide to sell these at a craft fair or something, I'm okay. Now, you can purchase fonts from this site as well. So you may run into a font that has a charge to it. Just be sure you do the right thing there. All right, I'm going to go up here to the top and put search for fonts. I'm going to put in the word skinny because I want a skinny font. Okay, skinny and tall is what I'm looking for. So when I do this, you can see that we get all of the skinny fonts that it has available. And luckily, we don't have 500 pages of them because normally I have to look through pages and pages of fonts. This one right here, I've used this font so many times. This one's called Sue Ellen Francisco. This is the one I want. Let me show you something else. I put the word in bless earlier. This is so I can see what word I'm working on. Let's say you're working on Christmas and you type in the word Christmas, then all those fonts are going to change so you can see what they look like in your in the word you're actually using. And if I want it to be all capital letters, I can change it and it'll change those to capital letters. Isn't that cool? This is what I love about this website. So now that I've chosen the font I want, all I need to do is download it. So I'm going to come right over here where it says download and I'll click that and that will start my download and it'll go into my download folder. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to put it onto a Mac, not a Windows computer. I don't have a Windows, I have a Mac. I'm going to show you how to make it where it's usable. So here is my font. It is on my desktop now, but that's because I pulled it from my download folder to my desktop so you guys could see it. Now notice that it's zipped. I'm going to double click it and that will unzip it. That will open it for me. Okay, so now it is unzipped. I do not need the zip file anymore. This is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to double click this guy to open it. So you see that I have the font here and the text here. This is your licensing information. This is what you want. This is the font, okay? So with this open like this, I'm going to scoot this over to the side for just a second. I'm going to come down to my rocket ship, and this is like your launch pad for your Mac. And you see where this says font book? I'm just going to open font book. Now, there are easier ways to do this, but for me, this is the one that I say there's easier ways. There's just point and click ways to do it, but this works for me so easy. With my font book open, I just click this little guy right here and drag it over into this little menu, and it will load in there. Now, if your system finds anything wrong with it, anything that it needs you to look at, it will let you know. It'll warn you there, and I have to put in my password for it to keep going. But this one loaded just fine, and so now it is in my fonts. So I can close this out, and that means it's now in any font. Anytime I'm using fonts on my computer, it's already there for me. So let's go back to Cricut. Okay, so we're back to our project. So now what we need to do is go to text, and the wording I'm going to use is God bless you. So I'm going to put in the word God first. Oh, but this is a reminder. I want it to be all caps, so I'm going to go back over that and make sure I capitalize that. And this font here is called Skinny, by the way, and it's the one I thought I wanted to use, but I changed my mind when I found that other one. So I'm going to put that one right there for now, and I'm going to change that font to our new font, which is Sue Ellen, right? So I'm going to type in Sue and Ellen and see if it will find it for me. Now, it didn't, and I'll tell you why. My Cricut was already open. Okay, I already had Cricut Design Space open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my work where it is, and I'm going to close out Cricut and start back. So if this ever happens to you, you know what to do. So this is my tissue jar, I should say. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to close out Cricut and come back, and that font will be there. So now I'm just going to open that project where I left off, and I want to customize it. I'm still working on it, and we can start to work. Let me change my background so you guys can see, and I'm going to click on this word. I'm going to go to my fonts, and I'm going to look for Sue. There it is. Like I said, because Cricut was already open when I started, it wasn't there, but now it is. That's a good tip for you guys. I know it can be frustrating sometimes when you can't find what you know you did. Sometimes that's just why. All right, now I'm going to do the word bless. Bring that guy up here. I'm just sitting it for now, and then I'm going to get the word you. Or I'm going to type the word you and bring this up here. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to show you a cool feature. I think it's a really cool feature. If you select all three of your words by clicking on one, holding down your shift button and clicking the next one and the next one, keeping your shift button held, that's how you select them all at one time. You come up here to align. In the bottom, there's this part that says distribute. I want to distribute these guys vertically. Do you see how this looks? This is how I want to do it. So watch what happens to my words when I click this. See how that bless moved the tiniest bit? Now they're equally spaced vertically. That's awesome. The next thing I want to do while I have them all selected is I want to center them horizontally, which will also make them even. So I'm going to click center horizontally. And, ooh, they barely moved. While I have them all selected, I'm going to group them. I want them to stay together, okay? Now I know that this will fit in my 4x4 space. But with them grouped together, if I want to take advantage of every bit of the space, with this proportion locked, I can grab this and stretch it. And this will now be as big as I can get it in my space. Does that make sense? Without having to do any extra like adding or measuring or anything. Just stretching it will make it work. So height is good. Width is good, and now I don't need this little box anymore. I can delete that, and this guy is ready to cut. Now I'm going to cut this in sticky vinyl, and we're going to stick it onto our jar. So before I go, I'm going to go ahead and save this project just in case I want to do this over and over again. All right, so now we can cut it out on our machine. So now I'm going to tell the Cricut to make this, but there's one thing I need to do. Just because I grouped these together does not mean that Cricut knows to keep them together. Let me show you what I mean. If I say make it right now, it'll go to the make it screen, but it's going to take all of my words and put them in one line, and I don't want that. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to say cancel to this and go back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, my words, and I'm going to come to the bottom of the screen. I'm going to attach them. By attaching them, now they become one, and the Cricut will know to keep them together. So now let's say make it. And I'm going to do it on black vinyl just like I've got it here. And I only need one and it's ready to go. So all we have to do is continue. Now we need to set our material. So I'm going to choose vinyl. And I have my tools loaded. We're really ready to go. I'm not going to put this in fast mode because I find with vinyl that's not always my favorite thing to do. But we're going to cut it and I will show you another tip that I'm going to do after I cut it. So let's head to the machine. So my vinyl is loaded. This is just some shiny sticky back vinyl. And I'm going to click the little flashing Cricut head and it will cut. So now it is cut through one time and it's telling me to unload it, but I'm always afraid that I don't get a really good cut the first pass. So if you will click the Cricut head one more time, it will cut again, actually twice. It will cut again exactly where it left off. So that way you get a double cut and that way you know you have a good all the way through cut. Now it's cut, you can actually see it on there and it's just time to weed it. So I'm going to start in one corner and just pick up the edge of the vinyl. Like so, and then I'm going to hold it flat. See how I'm kind of pressing it down? Now right there I see a little lift, so I'm going to go back and help it just a little bit. But sometimes holding this flat will help me get a better weed. That looks pretty good. Just go slow, make sure everything's down, and doing that double cut really helps. There's that one out of the way, and then we just get the centerpieces. So now that I've got it weeded, I'm going to use some contact paper as my transfer paper. I pretty much use contact paper all the time, but there are some instances where contact paper is just not strong enough. But for this, because I really don't want to lift up any of the paint that I'm putting down on this glass, this is going to be plenty strong enough for me. So here's what you do. You lay this down. You place your transfer on top, like so. Rub that down, pick up, and it's going to pick up all of those letters. Now we're not going to pick it up right now because I still have to let my jar dry a little bit and put its clear coat on it. But now my wording is ready to go. So my last paint step is to matte varnish this guy. And you don't have to do this. It does make it more durable if you do that. You also can use the wax finish that they have or the glossy varnish that they have. So if you want to put that on there, you can. I suggest doing it especially when given a gift because I know to be gentle with this, but if you're giving this as a gift, a person may not realize if they push it against the wall or something, it could scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and do this matte varnish. Now another thing, I'm even going to keep my brush strokes the same with my varnish as I did with my paint. I don't want to go sideways if my paint is going up and down. Here's another tip, okay? Try not to go back over your spaces. Try to make nice, even strokes all the way down. And if it starts to dry, move on. Here's why. It will also pick up that paint. Like I told you about, a second coat will pick up. If you're not careful on the glass, it will pick up a second, or it will pick up some of that paint and move it around. So do nice, smooth, even coats of your varnish and try not to go back and forth over where you've laid it down. That'll make sense when you do this for the first. As a matter of fact, here's what I suggest. Pick up a jar, just a jelly jar in your house, and practice with this paint. There is kind of a learning curve to it, in my opinion. And I have painted a lot with it lately because I'm redoing my house. And so everything that sat still got repainted just about. Seriously, I've painted so many things with this. Jars, vases, cake plates, you name it. I've been painting like crazy. Okay, so that's my coat all the way around. And just to let you know, you can make so many of these with this. This paint goes a long way because it covers so well. I only did 2 coats of paint on here and it's just really well covered. Also, don't worry about this too much because I'm going to be decorating that anyway, kind of hiding that. So that is our jar. And once it's dry, and what I do to dry them is sit them upside down like this and just let it dry. So once this is dry, we can add our sticker, put our Kleenex in, and our gift is almost done. So here we go, all done. I love how this looks and it's all smooth. And now I'm going to pick my favorite side. I think it is this one to put my sticker on. Now this is easy. I say sticker, my vinyl cutout. So this is super easy, all right? So what I'm going to do, I'll move this over here and I'm going to lay this down and I'm going to lift the backer up, hopefully leaving my stickers down or leaving the vinyl down. And sometimes you might struggle with this part. And if you do, just kind of work it back and forth like that. And see how that's right here, it kind of got stuck. So I can just rub till it sticks. And if you really get a stubborn piece, which this S is being pretty stubborn, you can turn it over like this and kind of burnish it. And let's see if I got it that time. Nope, that S does not want to lift up. Come on, S. Worst case scenario, take your tool and kind of help it get started laying down. There we go. Then you. Perfect. This is so fun. Okay, and now we're going to bring this guy back over. And I'm going to put this where I want it on my jar. And I'm kind of looking at my screen to kind of help me line this up. But you can get over the top of yours to get it lined up nicely. So now I'm just going to rub this down. And notice how I'm not rubbing all of it. There's no reason to rub all of your transfer tape down. All you're trying to do is transfer the letters. And I don't want to take a chance of pulling up any of my paint. So I'm just going to do it just like that. That O wanted to lift up. This is really cute. Now, I get asked a lot of times, do you need to seal it after you put the vinyl down? I think that's a personal choice. I don't personally think you need to. I believe, did you see what just happened right there? Got to take your time. I believe that your paint will hold this sticker, this vinyl into place really, really well. So I don't really think you need to go back over it with any varnish. You do want to rub it down really good. But if you want to do the varnish, just do another coat over it and that will be fine. But I have actually found sometimes it'll make my varnish curl. So, I mean, make my vinyl curl. So I really don't go back over it. I leave it just like that. All right, let's put our Kleenex in. So you just pull them straight out of your little tube there and place these down inside like so. Isn't that cute? Oh, this is going to be adorable. All right, and then we need our lid that we created, and we're going to poke that through. And what's going to hold our lid in place is going to be the jar when we twist this on. I can get my hand out of the way so you can see me twist it there. So we twist our jar lid on, and then look, how awesome is that? That is the coolest. Let me lay it down so you can see. Isn't that cool? I'm not going to waste any more. That's all I'm wasting, but I love that. So now we just need to decorate this section. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some twine and I'm going to wrap it around the top of the neck of the jar. Let me get a lot off. So I'll show you, let me wrap this around one time, then I'll show you so you can see where I'm wrapping it. I'm wrapping it under that glass lip and where we had our paint stop. I'm wrapping it there and I'm going to wrap it several times until I like how thick it is. I actually wrapped it a good bit. If you had a thicker twine, you wouldn't need to wrap it that much. Also, and I don't have anything today, but it would be really cute if you had a charm or if you wanted to hang a tag here, that would be super cute. I am just going to tie a bow where this guy meets right here and let this dangle down. I think that'll be cute. Let me trim this a little bit. So there you go, just with a simple bow tied around it and a cute little saying there. I think that's adorable. These are easy to make. You'll be able to make so many for Christmas gifts and theme them how the person's maybe home decor is or their favorite thing, their hobby, or even if you have a friend that's not feeling well and you did one that said bless you or get well soon or something like that, or I'm praying for you or something. Wouldn't that be cute? I love how this is. So I have to say thank you to my friend Cass for giving me this one because she totally inspired me to do one of my own. And I love it. So thanks so much. And I hope you guys are enjoying Christmas in July. We're just getting started. We have a lot left to do. If you make one of these, you know I want to see it. Head to our website and our customer gallery at maymaymadeit.com and share with us what you're making. We love the inspiration. And if you need inspiration, there's over 2,000 posts there for you guys to get inspired by. Thanks so much for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe. Talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.